Alright, I got the Camaro in the shop today. I don't know if y'all watch any of the last videos. I had some wheel hop. And I had the radials on it. The bigger tires, these are 26 inches. The bigger tires are 28.2 or something like that. But anyway, I had some wheel hop. And it bent my lower control arm. Relocation bracket is the bolt-on kind, which bolts to the shock perch, so it bent that too, and it sent the tire into the fender and did that. That was just the paint. I didn't realize that paint was that thick. Look at that. But yeah, and then knocked a dent in it. Knocked a pretty good dent in it. And I did that to my tire. Those tires are pretty much brand new. The other side did it too. It just didn't do it as bad. But we're gonna have to figure out a way to straighten them shock perches out. Not sure how that's gonna work, but we definitely will be getting weld-on lower control arm relocation brackets, and I'll show you why it did it right here in a minute. I was talking to Jonathan Atkins, that drives the fastest stick shift LT1, which he switches back and forth between a Gen 1 and a Gen 2. He said them bolt-on relocation brackets for the lower control arm, they ain't meant for a 3,600 pound car at 1.360 foot. So, but yeah, let's get in here and I'll show you why I did it. All right. Jacked it up from the rear end under there. I put it on some jack stands over there. When it bent that in, it bent this ledge out, and I beat it back with a hammer. But let's take a look. So you can see it bent the shock perch right there. But now, if you look farther up in there, it bent this bracket from the lower control arm that bolts to the front of the shock perch. That's what bent everything, because back here, this holds the lower control arm on. There's only one bolt back here. So, see, there's space here. This bracket can easily rotate back and forth with just that one bolt in there. And they put this up there hoping it would hold it on the shock perch. Well, when you're wheel hopping, it's like traction, no traction, traction, no traction, like a machine gun, and that's really rough on parts. When you take off, the rear end's trying to go forward. So really, the only thing holding that was that lower control arm bracket that goes in front of the shock. Because ain't nothing really holding it back here except for that one bolt, but that can easily flip back. So this flipped back, and when it flipped back, the only thing trying to hold all that was this poor little shock perch and that piece coming off the lower control arm relocation bracket down there at the bottom. And those weren't strong enough. So it bent it there, and it bent the lower control arm bracket there, and see, it bent the shock and angled it down. When it did, it busted the bottom out of the shock. And so relocation brackets, bolt-ons, are good for the street, but I would not use these on a high-powered car without them being welded. At least weld them across here and across there. I'm just going to get the weld-on kind, or maybe we can just weld those on. I don't know. We'll see once we get them off. But I'm gonna go ahead and take the bolt out of the shock, knock the shocks off, and take these lower control arms out and see what we got. Alright, so I went ahead and took the shock off. And the bolt that holds all that together. Took the bolt that holds the lower control arm on. Now you'll see what I'm talking about. You can see where it was twisting. It's rubbed the crap out of the paint. See? There's nothing holding that. Now that bolt was tight, but still, no matter how tight you get that bolt, that's still gonna rock back and forth like that. So really, the only thing holding this bolt on lower control arm bracket was this poor little shock perch. So when the rear end tried to push forward, this rotated back and took the shock perch with it. And it bent this too. See that? Boy, that's some crazy force right there. I tell you what though, if you ever use these bolt-ons, lower control arm relocation brackets, don't just bolt them on. Hit it with a weld around here too. And maybe in the back, I'd pull it all the way back. Put it all the way back, you'd probably get a weld in there too, or I don't know. That's terrible. That's why it did that. The rear end was trying to push forward. It pushed back like that. This bolt alone wasn't enough to hold it. So this bracket that comes off that lower control arm reload bracket, it just pulled back and said, see ya. Shock perch. Bent the crap out of that shock perch. I don't know how I can straighten that up. Posted on one of those F-body pages, and somebody said just cut that off and weld a new one on, which would be a good idea. If you could get both of them cut off just perfect. Maybe I can, I don't know, we'll see if we can heat this up and straighten it up. Let's go ahead and take this out. I've already took it out of the other side. That probably wasn't a good idea. I should have probably undid the brake lines, the torque arm, and the drive shaft, because now there's nothing to hold the rear end from doing this number. The only thing holding the rear end right now is the torque arm, which really doesn't hold it, the sway bars, which really doesn't hold it, and the panhard bar, which doesn't really hold it. Yeah, oh well. But yeah, look at that once I got it off. Look at all that discoloration from it twisting. Yeah, that's terrible design again, man. Look, this piece that comes out right here, that the shock bolts to, that's really the only thing holding all that, man. That's not enough. This is actually pretty good if you weld it. Scrape the powder coating off of it and weld it, but look at the powder coating where that thing was twisting back and forth. This poor little shock perch way down here was the only thing trying to hold all that back, the whole rear end, from trying to go forward when you plant the tires. Then when it wheel hopped, it was going bow, 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 bow. How'd that go again? Bow, 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 bow. It bent that. See, this is supposed to be straight up and down. See how much it bent it? And it bent it mainly right there. Yeah, see, bent it right there too. It did the other side too, it just wasn't near as bad. Hopefully we can somehow straighten that out. I don't know. I have no idea.